I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is the Tax Increment Reinvestment Zone Number 1. It is 12:31. At this time, can I have a roll call, please?
Yes. Mr. Heather?
Here.
Mr. Mia? Mr. Mia will be excused today. Mr. Castillo?
Here.
Mr. Navarro?
Present.
Mr. Martinez?
Here.
Ms. Alexander?
Here.
And Mr. Ceballos will also be excused for this. And we do have a quorum.
Thank you. Can we please stand for a pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So the item 3 is the minutes, and I believe Mr. Ceballos was talking about the minutes. As we motion, we typically make a motion of approval subject to the amendments. And he would like to see those minutes come back so we can double check to make sure those amendments were made. But I'm gonna ask that we postpone this item to the next meeting, please, so that we could review and then you can bring back whatever you need to bring back. And then,
You will not be approving the ones presented?
correct, I'd just like to move it to the next
Okay.
meeting. Okay. And then, as far as the approval of the minutes for February 14th, 2023, do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is citizen comments. And I'd like to welcome Arturo Garcia. Arturo is a former building director, community development director. What else were you?
Honorable Chairman and Board, how you doing? Arturo Garcia, for the record, former city building director / community development director too. Got a good one running your show now. Just came real quickly to comment on two quick things. Back then, 2 years ago, before I left retired, I did serve on the board, on the TERS board. And part of one of the motions that was passed way before, almost 2 years plus, was that there was a motion by this board to basically look at doing murals. There was $50,000 allocated for it. We're 2 years into it, and there's nothing out there to show for it. So I don't know where the ball was dropped. I mean, who cares? But just want to bring it back to your attention. It was never done. I don't know if it's because of the sites, or if it's just because it should just be a regular RFP. Let the artist decide, coordinate anywhere in downtown, doesn't matter where. Art and color to the downtown are critical to basically its vibrancy and basically bringing areas to life. As you can see, some of the areas that do have murals established with their projects. So if you can just maybe bring back a status report, so that way you can get a report back on the murals. Recommend that. And then the second item, and I wanted to see if Rio was here, the utilities, he oversees utilities. Just something that happened this weekend, just so that you all can know. I have two properties on Iturbide, 811 and 813 Iturbide, which is part of the ongoing project that you have scheduled for engineering and all that stuff. The water, basically, there's so much sediment in the pipes there that are over 75 years old that a lot of the faucets weren't even working. Toilets are yellow. The water was foul. I did have to call 311 and then started texting everybody what's going on. Just had a recent food truck that moved in. They're doing great, but just wanted to make sure that they were successful with their endeavors. They even mentioned to me, hey, Arturo, we're having trouble with the water, and we're like, okay, let me start making some calls and see what we can do. Utilities did respond by going out there and flushing the line where orange soot came out of the line. So, and I'm not exaggerating, okay? So I know that people tend to tell me that I exaggerate. I was not exaggerating, okay? I just noticed today, I went down to do some work on the house, and basically I saw that they put a flush line there. So that's great that they did that, but it's a temporary fix. I did kind of do some check-in, as I do know some of the staff that's doing some of the engineering work. And I did ask, like, how's utilities coordinating with you all on the replacement of the water line along with the project, since you're already at 30-40% engineering? And there was no coordination from what I understood yet. Not from the folks behind me, but from utilities. So I would also ask this board to ask city management to respond to this board by asking you what coordination they have done with your consultant on those endeavors with utilities. So those are my only two comments. I really look forward to this project moving forward. Water is critical to us. It remains a priority for this community and its infrastructure. All right? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. Duly noted, we did make notes. That was the only registration card that I received, so that's it. If that's all, I'd like to go on to presentations, item number 5. Discussion on any downtown-related effort or activity of board members' interest or concerns. Are there any comments from the board?
I'd like to comment on what Mr. Garcia, both points.
Okay.
One, maybe some research to figure out where the mural program stands, because we actually had voted and approved a budget to create to get the murals going and get them up, and that was approved. And it with pandemic, I know we kind of disappeared and then came back, and things were different, especially downtown, because the bridge was closed for so long, and downtown really was having a hard time. So I would like to see that on the next agenda. And also, if we could do the research between now and then to identify where we stand. Because I think the money was already approved, and all we need is the program to go forward.
Yeah, we'll provide you status of where the last action was taken.
And then secondly, also, I too am wondering, when I was coming to the meeting today, I ran into a roadblock, because there's construction happening on the street, so that if we could coordinate efforts with the city when they're doing construction. I know this is not one of our identified locations yet, but if we could put that into place formally, so that someone from the TERS or someone from the downtown community, maybe Laredo Main Street, or the working business district that's already in place, if they could be, or someone from the TERS board, to work with the utilities to identify when the street's going to be torn up, maybe there's some coordination of efforts and some savings along the way. Also, I know I heard you say, I was wondering about when we approve the minutes and we make some changes and then we approve the minutes with changes.
Correct.
If we ever come back with those to see them.
That's the suggestion that Mr. Soares had, to bring them back to make sure the amendments were changed.
Oh, okay.
So that's what he was wanting, but I was leaving it to the next meeting.
And finally, I see that on this agenda, there is the fast track to getting a contractor on board, and I am volunteering as a downtown stakeholder to be on at every meeting connected to choosing a contractor, please.
Any other comments from the board? If not, we'll move on to item number 6. Action items. An update presentation discussion with possible action related to the TERS number 1 ongoing improvement design work and elements, a firm construction documents delivery timeline for 100% of design and bid solicitation.
Changed.
It's not on.
On this side.
Yep, found it.
want me to go first? Yeah. All right, good afternoon, members of the commission, staff. Edward Ochoa for the record with KCI Technologies. So just kind of an update on where we're at. We're currently working on the plan set. The last update that we had was we took the comments from the public awareness meetings and the input that we got at those meetings and started with our 60% plan development. So we're currently in producing the 60% plan development plan sheets. I would say we're probably about maybe 80% done in that particular task. So, so what you see here is on the screen is kind of our plan sheet development. And, you know, we're just a lot more progress than what's been presented thus far. You know, up to the 30% plan phase, we were just kind of working on a kind of conceptual or schematic for each of the blocks. Now what you're going to see here is we've got an existing site plan for the block. We have our demolition plan, our proposed site plan, and then our proposed grading plan. And that's kind of where we're at right now in our phase of the 60% development. And I guess we'll piggyback on the timeline. So one of the questions that had been brought up, I believe at last meeting was, you know, to come forward with kind of a hard timeline. So in getting together with the design team, we're looking at what we would like to do is our goal is to submit the 60% plan set to the city and the TERS board for review and comment at the end of this month. So March 31st, I think it's a Friday. So that'll be our hard timeline for the 60% submittal. And then after our 60% submittal, we would have the 100% submittal. And so we're looking at the 100% submittal for end of May. I think it'd be May 31st, which, if I'm correct, should be a Tuesday. A Wednesday, I'm sorry, Wednesday.
So we're writing that date down.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So, is there any?
That was the intention, I think so. So March 31st would be the 60%, and then May 31st would be the 100%. So between March 31st and May 31st, that would be the time frame that staff, TERS board, you know, would provide us any comments or concerns on the plan development through, let's say, the month of April, you know, and we'll take those comments as we receive them, and we'll start to implement them or address them as we prepare for the 100% development.
Is there anything that you need from staff, from the city, any information that you need to complete your 100%?
Well, really the main thing we need that has been discussed already is we need to get a meeting with some of the other departments. So we've met with El Metro already. We were going to coordinate with Mr. Mia to get a meeting with engineering, traffic, fire, and utilities. Just again, same concept, to present the plan and see if they have any comments, questions, or issues that we need to start addressing as we develop 100. So we just need to circle back with Mr. Mia. He was going to help us plan for that meeting. Hopefully we can get one. You know, I know this week is spring break week, but maybe we can get a meeting set up for next week with all the department heads and their staff or whoever, and get those final comments. I think that's kind of the main one, Rick, that we need from the city.
Yeah, if you need help from us, if you need help from staff to coordinate those meetings, just let us know, because, you know, we don't want to delay any longer. Now that you have all the information you need, now you just need feedback from the directors so they can hurry up and get that to you, and that we don't have any surprises.
Correct.
So we can move forward, so.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly the concept that we've discussed at the design team, and it's been tasked to us, to Able City a little bit more, is, you know, produce a design standard essentially for this downtown area that can be used. So as we work through our design, you know, this is the first project, I guess, that would implement that design standard. So certainly getting feedback from all the different departments, directors and so on, that we can help us develop the design standard is some of the guidance that we'll need, for sure.
So after May 31st, that's a submittal of 100% plans?
Yes, sir.
Then we're looking at a review by engineering?
No, I would expect that when we submit the 60% plan set, we would get everybody, all the departments' reviews, including engineering,
Okay.
so that, we can get whatever feedback. My intention or my hope would be that when we submit the 100%, that the 100% would pretty much be the biddable set of plans, right? Ready for bids, specifications, and that would be the opportunity that the engineering department could open up the project for bid or move to that phase of the project, right? Go ahead.
So, Viviana Frank for the record, Able City. Mr. Navarro, we would need some help with the landmark board if you think that we need to take a design, because it's passing through several of the historic districts. Is there anything that we need from the planning department concerning coordinating with the landmark board? If you think we need to.
Based on, I guess the locations that we had picked, I didn't think it impacted.
Yeah, it's going,
They're freestanding.
it's going through several of the districts. Mercado, I think there's a piece of Mercado, a piece of San Agustin. So I just don't know. We will have specs of the different materials we're using and all of that, but other than that, I don't know if there's something else. We may need to coordinate with them.
I'll have Laura, who's here in the audience, she helps with the historic, she can go ahead and get in touch with you, and then she can do a review of all that, so that we can make sure there's no areas, or if there is, we'll let you know what there is, okay?
So again, what I had here on the screen was just where we're at plan development wise. And we're working through the project, so we're still adding some sheets as needed. At this point, I don't have a traffic control plan. That's one of the more important things that we've discussed at several meetings already. We're working on developing all that. But we're kind of starting with the main sheets, and we're going through our plan development for 60%. So those are the dates that we were asked to present, again, met with the team, and those are the dates we're shooting for. So we'll be working the rest of the next few months to get to the end of May with a hopefully full package, 100% specs, everything ready to go. So.
And the bid process is gonna be done through you or through the city?
Through the city.
Through the city?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
So we'll get, at the next meeting, we'll have the engineer here, so we can discuss that, because you said you want to be on the committee to review the bids?
I'd like to look at them, yeah,
Okay.
at least know where they're coming from.
Yeah, there's a process the city runs through, but they can put you on the committee for that.
So, I guess if you could form that committee, because it would be helpful for the request, I'm assuming we're going for a request for qualifications, or are we going for a request for proposals? Either way, there should be something written
Yes.
that reflects the scope of work. We can start it, but the board should participate in
Well,
that.
I'd like to take a trip down memory lane. When we did the RFQ for the consultant for these projects, we had to put the bid out at least 3 times. And I did see that it's been, it was just closed recently. It was open.
I believe if y'all are talking about 100% construction documents at the end of May, the next step would be to be putting it out for bid. This would no longer be an RFQ or an RFP. It would actually be a construction bid out for a contractor to bid and put a price on this.
And so the qualifications won't matter?
There won't be the qualifications, there will be, they have to be a responsive bidder. There is city requirements that I could present to you all. that are typical of any project that requires, and since we do have some stake in it, some bond money also, we will probably have to have certain type of insurance, type of graded, what is it called, a construction company. There are, but this is not a RFQ or an RFP. This is a bid of
Already
a
going
project,
forward.
correct?
Does the city have different requirements when working downtown? Because there's such somewhat of a specialty, just, it's different working on a wide open new subdivision or
So that would all
and
be
working downtown.
specified that would be specified on your plans and specifications. So the plans and specifications will require certain layouts for traffic control and certain coordination of certain elements, but the contractor would just have to be a responsible, qualified contractor in the city, correct?
It would be beneficial to, when we go out for bids, yes, but we do specificate, well, not specifications, but requirements for experience. And that is something that I think you all would need to tell us, because the more experience we're looking for, Edward will tell you, this is not a typical thing that's done downtown. So, I do think that we should probably get some help, maybe with a few of you on a committee, to really kind of look at how we're going to put this out there and to start it as quickly as possible so that we don't get stuck. Also, we can put together the boilerplate stuff that goes in the beginning which includes insurances and everything else that is required for contractors to have. At least we can have that ready.
And that's why I wanted to bring in the engineer, because he's the one that does this every day. And so
Right.
he can tell us exactly
Is there
what it
anything
is,
else?
and he does it downtown work and stuff like that. So we can bring him in, and Edward, if you talk to him one,
Yep.
you can put that
Certainly.
so that that he's ready to present to us what the steps will be for the bid.
Yes, sir. Yeah, so I think with, with us presenting these hard dates, now that we've got an end goal to shoot for, like on the 100% submittal, that gives, Mr. Chavez's department an opportunity to start preparing on their end, right, for the bid package or getting everything lined up. So, but that's kind of where we're at on the project. Again, we're still working on the design team. We're working on fine tuning a lot of ideas and stuff here. Met with Viviana this morning, and so this is kind of a working plan set. We're working through a lot of the details. There's just such uniqueness, in my opinion, to all of this. We really want to put out a good product, so tossing around a lot of ideas still. So we're working through that, but that's kind of where we're at on our presentation.
Thanks, to a question.
Good.
Go ahead.
I do want to add one other thing. There is, and I think this board created various subcommittees. And I believe there's one for construction. I think you're on it, right, Ms. Azan? So maybe it would be a good idea to convene one of those committee meetings so we can talk about what process we want to follow. Then when we prepare the documents, that's what we'll give to the city so they can put it out to bid.
I appreciate that. One of the things that I think gets lost, especially when you start hurrying at the end, right? I want to see, I want a date, I want this to happen. But what I'd like, I hope, doesn't get lost in that push is the objective. And, if the objective could be at the top of every document, right? Because this is not just put some makeup, so to speak, on a sidewalk.
Right.
It's a specific goal, and the goal is walkability. And so when those decisions, when you said you're gonna meet with engineering, traffic, fire, and utilities, fire might not have the same objective, right, connected to walkability, but ultimately, these projects are being paid for a specific purpose, and the purpose is to increase and regenerate economic vitality downtown. And I hope that doesn't get lost when you're meeting with different department heads, that when you're meeting with El Metro, they have their specific wants and needs, but the purpose of this project is to enhance walkability, and that's a, like you say, it's a specialty, and it's a specific goal that could get lost
Yeah.
in the meetings.
That's an excellent point, and that's the importance, I think, of us meeting with all the directors, and hopefully maybe at one time, and we could just have kind of a brainstorming session, if you want to call it that, right, with them. Because what we've been designing and presenting to date has been that objective, in my opinion, the walkability and allowing for that, and it's some outside the box stuff, you know, in my opinion, so.
Well, for Laredo.
Yeah, for Laredo, you know, for Laredo. I mean, there's a lot of ideas and concepts that we've been, you know, we've researched, as we've talked about at various meetings. You know, we've researched a bunch, and we've got some good ideas for this area. So that's an excellent point. We'll keep that in mind for sure as we meet with everybody.
Thank you.
That's all I had on that. If you all had any other questions?
You have to show the parking
Oh.
sketch.
Okay, you want me to turn that over to you, Rick? Okay, I'll turn it over to Rick here.
So there's one other item that was discussed at the last meeting. I think we were given some direction to look at providing some head-in parking around Center for the Arts. And so we did work on a sketch, and we just kind of wanted to review that with you all. Essentially, currently around the perimeter, I guess on the north and south sides and on the west side, the streets are wide enough to allow for that hidden parking. Along San Agustin, it's pretty narrow, so we're not proposing to put that type of parking there. And actually, that's the front of the building, correct?
Well, yes.
So there were 17 existing parallel parking stalls were by this layout, and we're still working through it, but you know, we've more than doubled that just by doing some head-in parking. I think from the photographs that we've attached, that's the way it used to be around the plaza with the head-in parking. And so we think that it's something that you might want to pursue. I know when we went to the meeting this morning, or the announcement this morning, our congressman did talk about the Center for the Arts building being sort of also needing some TLC. And so we could start to, again, revitalize this whole block by incorporating some of the elements that were already there in the past. I don't know, Vivian, do you want to add anything to that statement?
No, I think also there's been a desire for this to happen for a long time. This is striping. This could literally happen, and you know, people, we get the right drawing fine lines, right, with everything. It could happen very soon, and we end up with more parking spaces. And it's very much a part of the history of the city, as you can see, from when we were horse and buggy to the 50s, 60s. It changed in the late 70s, early 80s, actually.
So I'll just kind of piggyback on what Viviana said. So basically what you see here is occupying the existing pavement space that's out there. And so all of those parking stalls, what you see kind of in red, those angled parking stalls, is parking on the existing pavement that's out there right now. So it really is as simple as just striping can make it happen, pretty much. Oh, so yeah, so again, you know, talking through this, we were discussing this this morning, is, you know, certainly if you've got these angled parkings, well, now you've got to have, you got to meter it, right? Because there's parking meters downtown. So everything that you see in the red angled parking, currently there's parallel parking in those spots, and there's parking meters in front of there. So I think this would be kind of a good opportunity, and we've mentioned it at a couple of meetings before, is kind of maybe a progression for downtown is putting up these parking kiosks, parking meter kiosks. You see them all over the big towns. So if somebody, for example, would park, you know, you maybe could have a kiosk, maybe you have a kiosk here in this corner, this top left corner. And so you would number these parking spaces as an example, A1, A2, A3. So the person would park there, they'd go to the kiosk, say I'm parked in A3, and they put their license plate number in some of the ones that I've done, prints out a little ticket, you put it on your dash and you walk away. Some of them don't even print out tickets. Some of them are apps, you scan it, it's on your phone. There's one kind of across the street here at the Wells Fargo lot that's kind of an app-based parking. So that would kind of help that concept and help clean up the parking meters, which is something we've talked about on our sidewalks project too, for some idea in the future. So
Was there any, I'm sorry, the parallel parking that's going on across the street from these cars, was there any, need to remove those to create space, or it works with?
no, it works. Let me see if I can zoom in there. You might not see the distance too well in this version, but it works in here. There's about a 12-foot passing lane through here. I think this one says 12 and some inches. This one might be 11.6 or so. And then again, these are approximate measurements, you know, some of the curb line. We haven't surveyed this area, so we don't have exact distances. It's all kind of based on conceptual schematic looks. But absolutely, you would have over 11 feet of passing path in, you know, that exceeds the dimensions that are provided in the recode. You know, the recode talks about 10-foot minimum lanes. We're at 11 feet here. It also works with, we went ahead and looked and analyzed the required space for a 45-degree parking. And in the city's land development code, under the parking lot, parking standards, I believe on a 45-degree angle parking, you need 10 feet 3 inches minimum. So again, we're in excess of that. So it does work in those situations.
Alexander?
Would the speed limit change downtown with those narrow streets?
I believe that, I don't think there's any speed limit signs necessarily around this area, but most of the default speed limit, I think, is 30 miles an hour. But certainly it would help, you know, kind of the concept we've talked about with the rest of what we're doing on the TERS sidewalks projects is increasing walkability. You kind of narrow the space a little bit of what a vehicle, you know, right now those vehicles are driving on 15, 18-foot spaces. You bring it down to 11 feet and there's a natural sense of wanting to slow down. So
What's happening is that the cars are driving and then the people are walking in the street because the sidewalks are inadequate. Right, that's what I see.
Oh, yeah.
Now, but I did have a question about your comment that this is a matter of just striping and getting it to happen. But I'm hoping in the interest of stakeholder involvement that I think the comprehensive plan that was created, or actually the city had a parking study. They contracted out a parking study, and the parking study had some recommendations. One of those recommendations was to create a parking committee with downtown stakeholders and the traffic department and whatnot. And I'm wondering if that, well, I know you're not, well, I know it hasn't ever been created. So I'm hoping that before this happens, that we could work with the traffic department to get that traffic committee going, so that before everyone's screaming about, including myself, about the parking meters that don't work.
So, may I have
That we make that committee, that we can ensure that it happens. I hope it can happen maybe for the next meeting.
So, those committees are important, especially if they follow through on the whole thing, which is to take the balance of usually these parking fees go into a parking fund that has to do with improvements. I don't know I remember vaguely when this was discussed that they weren't gonna do that parking fund that would take the meter money and put it into, because the meter money was supporting I guess the meter maid, but I don't remember that. But clearly, that part of the parking committee, I think it had met a couple of times and I think somebody, it's been years, obviously, but it would be really great if that would happen, if there was, if that parking committee for downtown had some funds to work with, so that they can get those kiosks and do those things and be able to focus those monies where it's needed for downtown.
And provide an opportunity for input from the people who live, work, and play downtown.
The parking committee is a TERS subcommittee?
No, the parking committee was a
Yeah.
recommendation.
City council.
It was a recommendation by the parking study that was done, that the Laredo Main Street was working with identifying how many, like, to answer the question, how many parking spaces are there
Oh,
downtown?
so it was suggested to create a
The
committee,
suggestion of the
but there's no committee
report.
right now.
But there's no committee,
Okay,
as
gotcha.
far as I know.
Gotcha.
I have asked about it a couple of times.
Just a quick question on, in terms of this design here, I know it's initial stages, but how replicable is that elsewhere? Can we replicate that in another process, and how quickly could that be done so that we could look at, I mean, this is plus 25 spots, you do that twice more, you're getting pretty close to 100 more spots downtown.
Sure. I mean, certainly, I think the first step would be to kind of survey and analyze the width of those streets. They all kind of vary. A lot of what I've noticed just in driving around town is the plazas tend to have more space, probably because there was angled parking at one time or head-in parking or something. So, and the other examples, San Agustin Plaza is probably pretty similar. Maybe St. Peter's Plaza might be pretty similar, I'm not sure. Jarvis Plaza, so on and so forth. So I would just take an analyzation of the width of the street and then seeing if you can input this into it, you know. This, what we were looking at here, and again, you know, not surveyed in the field, but just schematically, these streets are coming out to be about 40 feet wide, 40, 41, 42 or so, and that was sufficient. I think if you can get through with probably a 40-foot paved width, then you can probably handle it with striping, 40, 41 feet or so.
So, yes, and the answer to that question, I think, is exactly what Edward said. Probably go and survey some of the streets around San Agustin. I can tell you the one in front of the church is ample enough. It's just more complex around San Agustin because there's parking for taxis, and that gets, they have a contract to be there, and so it's not that easy to just transform those spaces, but this one doesn't have that issue.
Thank you.
Did we ever see I asked a couple of meetings back to see whatever agreement the city has with the taxi service that is on Zaragoza on the south side, and I haven't seen anything. Okay, so maybe we could figure out what that agreement.
We can request it again, but that has not been provided to us.
Who has that?
Who negotiates the contract? I don't know.
Is
We
it?
have to ask city management.
I'll request it from management.
Because there's going to be disruption along that street, and, you know, we have to see what the agreement is with them. Especially when Mr. Cruzards was here talking about the delivery for their location that's there on Zaragoza.
Are we good? Thank you very much.
Yep, thank you.
Let's move on to the next item, item number 7, discussion and possible action related to the acceptance and approval of the MPO Transportation Alternative Set Aside Program funding award of $1 million with a local match of $250,000 and the authorization to proceed with finalizing program documents and enter into an advanced funding agreement with TechStar. So, I know we have the MPO here. I don't know if Gracie would like to come up. I know she's looking at Julio. There he goes, okay. Come up.
Good afternoon.
And your names for the record.
Yes, my name is Graciela Briones. I'm a planner with the MPO, and here with me is also
Julio, for the record, planner with the MPO.
and both of the item. And this is, I don't know if you have any questions for this. This is in response to the TASA program. The TASA is the Transportation Alternative Set-Aside Program that is federally funded under Category 9 through TxDOT. And the MPO opened a call for projects back in October. We received 2 applications, and one of them was the one submitted by TERS, which was the sidewalk downtown improvements.
On Salinas Street.
On Salinas, correct, yes. It's like 3 blocks, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and this project included a good, numerous of good stuff. It was like the curb cuts, landscape, the sidewalk gaps. And when we received the applications, the submittals were reviewed by the selection committee, then they provided a recommendation to the technical committee, and after that to the policy committee. So the policy committee awarded $1 million to the tourists, which was the maximum amount out of the $2.4 million that we had, and so tourists was granted with this amount for this project.
Excellent.
Awesome, good news. So, we did match with the 250,000?
Yeah, we should have the funds available. I mean, we have two funding options. One is the bonds that we have, which, and then the other one will be what's accumulated so far into the TERS fund. So we do have those 2 funding agreements, funding options, and I would suggest that we use the TERS and not the bond money, but set aside the bond money for the actual construction of the downtown improvements that we're working on, and the match to come from the TERS, whatever has been accumulated over the past couple of years.
So that would be the 250?
The 250.
You think we have the 250?
Yes, we do.
Okay, good.
And who's, I know it's with TxDOT, but who's gonna actually create the project?
Well, these are monies coming from the federal highway, and it's on a reimbursement basis. So after the project is awarded and they enter into the advanced funding agreement with TxDOT, they start moving forward with the project, and then they submit for reimbursement.
So who, TxDOT is gonna?
That's what I was looking at.
Who's gonna control the project, like the design and the acceptance of, because TxDOT, I know, moves cars, and what we're trying to do is move people, pedestrians.
Right. No, this is a program for alternatives of transportation. So it's for sidewalks, it's for trails, for any project that it's got to do with mobility, and so it's through TxDOT, yes.
So I guess the question is, what are the steps to take? So I guess we're gonna have to go over that.
So there was a document submitted to y'all's emails. It was kind of large for us to print out, but we did send you the sample of the advanced funding agreement. That would be, if you entertain the motion, I believe your chairman would be able to sign off on that agreement, and then that would start the process. After that process, I think Gracie could speak a little bit more, what happens after that funding agreement signs? And I think to Ms. Alexander's question would be, how much can the church be involved in the next steps?
That'll be a good question for TxDOT, since they're the ones that control this. Like after the advanced funding agreement, they start the process with the project. So they create a project manager, and then they're in coordination with the project manager for the completion of the project.
Okay, so then we'll probably have to form a committee eventually to go over the AFA with the state and then move forward.
And then we'll go through, I guess, like a bidding process and all that.
Okay.
Did that,
We still have-
give you something?
Yeah, I was just wondering, I just didn't want the local downtown representatives to be left out of the process and, and it moves forward and it would be whatever, hope the objective doesn't get lost.
No, it's a project that it's defined in the contract and also in the submittal that we received.
Yeah, as per Mr. Ochoa over there, is very specific and a lot of details in the work.
Well, thank you for the help from the MPO for doing this for us, and thank you for coming and updating us. Thank you.
Will you be motioning anything?
Motion to accept the grant from MPO.
Second.
All those, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
So
Aye.
is there, my concern is that we don't even know where we sit as a board in connection to that. I mean, that, we could be spending $250,000 getting $1 million project, but being totally left out of the planning and the project. Somebody else from TxDOT could be, I mean, it's unclear.
Working for the city, I've seen grants from TxDOT where they actually give us some money to, in this case to the city, or in this case to the tourists, and then we decide how we're gonna use that fund, those funds. And of course, the local match will come from the tourist fund as well. And I've seen other projects where we actually advance the local match to TxDOT, and then TxDOT does the project. So I'm not sure exactly how this would work.
So
If
do you
we
feel
would-
comfortable? We wouldn't be left out?
I don't think so, no. There's very specific as far as the application was concerned. It was very specific as to the project. So the project, it's already out there. It's just a matter of who's gonna be doing the construction, whether it's gonna be the tourist or it's gonna be TxDOT.
And this motion would allow for a chairman to sign the documents?
It should, yes.
Okay.
We would have to go back to city council and just appropriate the funds, but that's something that we can work on.
Okay.
I think the
there's a
agreement,
question from
Carol, is gonna clarify a lot of, the questions you have. We just gotta read that agreement, the one we gotta sign.
Right,
And
but
I'm
if we
pretty
vote,
sure
if we're voting now, we're saying, yes, go move ahead.
No,
There's-
construction is the funding part.
Right.
Hi, sorry, Dr. Marcel Oribe, just for the record. I just asked the TxDOT people, the money is for 3 years, just for you to know when you're making this decision. I mean, if you want to explain a little bit more.
No, yes, those monies are, they have a 3-year, they have 3 years to complete the project. That's basically the time frame that they have.
We have to get started.
Okay. Well, I have a motion on the floor and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The next item is I was asked if I have a registration card for a public comment filled out by Jimmy. Hi. Can I have your full name for the record?
Jimmy Yerushalmi.
Jimmy.
Good afternoon, everyone. These meetings, I'm talking only on my own behalf because I don't know how many buildings we own on that area. We means me and my companies. But there is a lot of buildings surrounding us. None of the owners, they know anything about this, what's going on here. As of before, everything in downtown was hush-hush. They just prove it, they do it, and some directors, they sign on a papers, which right now there is a big problem, and they approve things. I hope it won't happen. As of you're talking on Iturbide, between Flores, San Agustin, 100% of one side belong to our company, and other side, it's 35–40% also belong to our company, and my other partners, they own another ones. They don't know nothing what's going on here. We are against any cutting parkings. And I have a stake on San Agustin. I said it last time on the meeting, it was at House of Whiskey. I said we are against it. When they shut down San Agustin, I didn't know about it. Never told me, nobody told me. And I came to Laredo and I said, boom, they put it. So, please contact all the landlords before signing anything. Because as of now, we have problem. I have problem. Everything has to be for everyone. As of a fact, 3 weeks ago, on Iturbide, no, month ago, I bought another building. And doesn't have no sidewalk, maybe feet and a half. It's not inside what the tourist wants to do on San Agustin. If they're gonna do it on San Agustin, they have to do it on Flores. If they do it on Flores, so there is no more passing cars or parking. It has to be fair for everyone. That's what I'm asking. And I know all the landlords there. And it will be there. And I asked them, each one of them, and I have it. Did they tell you? Everybody said no. So, before any changes, please, I beg you, call the landlords. You don't have the addresses. Some people, they do, they can give it to you, or their email. Ask them if they agree with it. I don't agree with even losing one parking. I have a problem on that. Because when I proposed, let's put one side of convent into a parking at the nighttime. Overnight, one councilman, they put a bike, whatever, a bike track or whatever. We have everything in Laredo, only missing that for 3 blocks. No help. We have problem in to the parking. Nobody wanted to do anything in downtown Laredo. As of 9 years ago, 10 years ago, I started the first bar, Rock Tavern. Restaurant next to it, everything. And now it got hot. Everybody was jumping in it. Beautiful, I love it. But ask other landlords. They might have something in their mind. And as much as here in Laredo, they push you back or stop you, nobody wants to come and help. I'm doing my own things. In Plaza, I'm doing my own things. On Flores also, I'm doing my own things. But before all of this, even though a month ago, we were at the meeting in House of Whiskey, I said, go ask what other landlords they want. Not just close your eyes, yes, yes, sounds good, yes, yes, sounds good, approved. They done this before. Stop it now. Please.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Yes. I don't know if staff can get with Mr. Jimmy here and get his contact information, because I know Main Street and our engineers, and especially Ms. Alexander here, has communicated as much as possible. So if we're not reaching out to him, let's get his information so he can participate, because they do need to be told when we have meetings so that they can come. We do have meetings every month for TERS here, and so that we can get your contact information so we can invite you to these meetings.
You know, many landlords, they don't live in Laredo, including me. I live in Los Angeles. I happen to be here today, and I happen to get from a friend of mine, dearest friend of mine, it's a meeting at 10 something, and I show up. They need to know what's going on. They need to know what is there. Maybe we could add to it. And as far as the parking, they said they put a boot here, you put your coin. It was a big failure in Los Angeles, and they took it out. Please go and get some advice from them.
Once again, if we could just get his contact info. Yes.
Well, this is a illustration of, we've talked about it before, that TERS monies typically in other areas will work together with an acting business district that represents the property owners. And downtown Laredo has a business district, and it has recently been reseeded, and it's meeting on a monthly basis, but it has not been funded. And business districts typically work with TERS because TERS can build something, but it cannot maintain anything. So a responsible use of these funds will be to encourage or support or recommend that the business district gets started, so that downtown stakeholders have the monies will come from the stakeholders, from the property owners. And it is where the property owners can go to be heard, and also to make recommendations about different things, and also to maintain what we're building. What the TERS builds will have to be maintained. The lighting, the trees that will be planted need to be watered, they need to be cut, they need to be trimmed. The lights need to be, if you go around the center, I just went to the Center for the Arts for a play. Around the center, there are beautiful strings of lights that are off, or half of them work, half of them don't. Those are projects for a business district. And if we could, I don't know that we can make recommendations, but maybe we can meet, so that maybe we could meet with the business district and see how to encourage that entity to get started by funding it. Because people don't have time to call, to find, this board has done a good job with Mr. Ceballos in trying to include the stakeholders and hold public events. It's challenging, and if we had an employee, if the downtown stakeholders had their district working, and they had an employee, a paid employee, they could work on networking with the city departments, including the county in there somewhere, having a place for the stakeholders to meet and have money to, not a ton of money, just enough money to trim the trees and water them so they're not dead. If we drove around downtown Dr. Uribe is going to speak, and we met with some people from the Texas Historic Commission recently, last week, I think it was, and we identified dead trees. They're dead for a reason. They don't get any TLC. And if we could get our business district going, would be one idea of addressing Mr. Jimmy's concerns. And also ours as a tourist board, we're spending this money and we don't have a plan in place for sustainability of the improvements.
Okay, let's keep that in mind when we're talking Laredo Main Street in the next couple of items. The next item is discussion and possible action related to approval of a partnership with a letter of commitment to the Rio Grande International Studies Center for their grant application to the EPA Environmental Justice Program for Collaborative Problem Solving, EJCPS.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and board members of the TERS. My name is Tricia Cortez, Executive Director with the Rio Grande International Studies Center, and my Sheila. Oh, okay, sorry. And this is my partner, Sheila Serna. She's our Climate Science and Policy Director. We are applying to an EPA grant through its Environmental Justice Collaborative Problem Solving Program. And we are here to request a partnership agreement and letter of commitment from the TERS. We met 2 weeks ago on February 28th with Mr. Ceballos, some members of some of the consultants, the engineers and architects, to walk some of these areas and get a better idea. Just very quickly, just to give you a little bit of background on this, this grant, it's coming out of the, sorry, I had it right here, out of the Justice 40 initiative, and the idea is to develop solutions that will significantly address environmental and/or public health issues in communities disproportionately burdened by environmental harms and risks. And the goal is to help transform disadvantaged and underserved communities into healthy, thriving communities capable of addressing the environmental and public health challenges they have historically faced, as well as current and future challenges. And the emphasis here is on climate resiliency, and they're also looking at air pollution issues as well. So with that, an overview of the program in general. There's $30 million available in the pot. They are going to select 50 projects nationally for up to $500,000 for each award. You have a time frame of up to 3 years to complete it. The deadline is April 10th to submit, and we will be notified in September, and there's a start date of October 1st. And the eligible candidates are nonprofits and tribes. And partnerships is the key to this whole program, and they want the submitting entity to have a minimum of 3 diverse partnering organizations. So after walking the area with Mr. Ceballos and also with Able City staff, this was the area that we looked at. It's the Boulevard of the Americas, the area of those 4 plazas. And the section that we want to really, really focus on as a model is starting with Plaza 1. And the idea there would be several. You'll see them right there. They're rather barren, sun-scorched, not really well used, and there are plans right now to transform them, and this proposal would come in as an extra layer of climate resiliency dealing with urban heat island effects. So our proposal, these would be the goals. We want to bridge significant air quality data gaps by installing some air quality monitors right next to that port of entry in the plazas. Climate mitigation is another one by having carbon sequestration and dealing with our rising temperatures and urban heat island effect via enhanced tree canopy, and also improve walkability and help connect the neighborhoods on the east side with downtown by having them be able to come to a shaded, nice place. But part of the project also calls for improvements for Hidalgo, a block east, and Hidalgo, a block west on the north side, in terms of accessibility by walking and biking, and also having some shade. Tentatively, we're still looking at this. We're looking at potentially some green infrastructure options to help with stormwater runoff filtration as well. The focus is the first plaza, and if we can make the funding work in the design process in these next few weeks, then certainly looking at the second plaza. Among the activities that the proposal would like to fund, these are some of the ones that this proposal would be able to get to. Research, public education and outreach, small-scale construction, mitigating sources of pollution, installing runoff filtration systems, community revitalization planning that supports climate resiliency, improve mobility for walking and biking, and improving neighborhood connectivity. Just a couple of data points that we were able to get from the Bridge Department. Right there at that port of entry, north and southbound, there's about 28,000 non-commercial vehicles that cross daily and about 10.2 million that cross annually. TCEQ had an air quality monitor, but it was deactivated in 2017 and PM 2.5 and 02. So we really do not have a good idea of what the air quality is like in this area. So we're here today with a request for a partnership agreement. These partnerships can be financial in nature or non-financial, but there has to be a commitment even if it's non-financial, like technical assistance or maps or things like that. And the letter can outline what those terms would be. The reason that we're here with the TERS and have had these long conversations with Mr. Ceballos is that we understand one of the key TERS policies is to sequester carbon and deal with the urban heat island effects and improve walkabilities in downtown Laredo. And enhancing tree canopy is sort of one of those tactics that we know y'all are really looking into. So these are the requests that we are going to be seeking. TERS, the City of Laredo, the MPO, Able City, and Azteca to bring in that neighborhood with the walkability component. And that's it. We're here to answer any questions that you may have about the proposed project that we want to submit.
So this could be two ways. It could be a commitment of support, or it could be a financial contribution to this. Just a quick question with the design or the future design of this. Would you be collaborating in order to kind of make sure where the trees go, it doesn't impact in a negative way, a future design, that can be coordinated?
Yes, Diana Frank, Able City. Yes, the idea is to take, is this not projected anymore?
I think they can see them.
Oh, okay, you can see them. Okay, so that first block north of Hidalgo off of Bridgehead is, there's 2 blocks that have been, right now, they're in design. The first block is the location of the Tomas Sanchez statue. And, but what is, the monies that are in place are for the first 2 blocks. The connectivity that goes across, the only thing that was anticipated in this part of the project of the Boulevard of the Americas was to restripe the crosswalks, but more is needed, and that was not in the budget. So the idea is to connect a very thriving neighborhood to the 4 blocks and across into the downtown area. One of the beautiful aspects of this coming from Azteca, and by the way, there's also traffic that comes through there that is heading downtown or crossing into Mexico. And so it's a really important block that needs help is the block to the east. And of course, the block to the west that connects everything to the Plaza Theater and to everything that's going on in downtown through the efforts of the TERS. The boundary of the TERS is Santa Ursula. So really everything connecting over to the west is possible through this grant. And in terms of, not the grant, but in terms of what you all would like to participate in.
Okay. I know he's here, so I'm gonna ask him the question. Mr. Belmontes, when you guys did the tree planting in North Central Park, what was kind of a budget for that? I mean, how many trees and what kind of budget were you working with? Just to get I know it's been a while, but I mean, just to get a dollar amount of what we're talking about here.
Well, triple it because the
Okay, well,
sizes of
triple
the
it.
trees, the sizes of the trees need to be substantial. They can't be small.
For the record, Gene Belmontes, with the Studio Group, former council member. For the first tree planting, we spent approximately $135,000 on trees. We had over 150 trees, but we also had irrigation. All those things were being put in. Most trees were of a 2 to 3 inch caliber tree. The second planting we did over 150 trees, but now we were looking at trees that were in that 3 and 4 caliber tree, much larger. One of the reasons we did that was because of the fact that we'd had several trees stolen in some of the other parks when they were smaller. The 1 inch caliber trees are being yanked out.
They
and taken.
stole the trees.
So, yeah, and again, there was even a law enforcement individual who was eventually arrested for some of that. But again, the cost for a 3 to 6 inch caliber tree is substantial. And our biggest challenge with the larger trees is the survivability of those trees. If they're being transplanted out, they're container grown or root ball, those tend to do well, but they require a lot of space to put them in. The city acquired a 42 inch auger. It's probably one of the largest augers out there for tree planting. We've used it in North Central Park, and it also has a tree spade that we bought back in 2005. That can take out up to an 8 inch to 10 inch caliber tree. For example, right now at Lakeside, you have those 2 entrances that TxDOT's going to kind of wipe out with the expansion of their of the overpasses. We're trying to rescue those trees and see if we can transplant them. But there has never been a real successful program to do that because the survivability of those trees at that size is about 55 to 85%. But yeah, so that's the cost we're looking at. We're about to do another one for March 25th, North Central Park. We're planting another 150 trees with the big event. And then we'll do another one at Bartlett with Keep Loretta Beautiful, which is something I spoke to Ms. Alexander about Keep Loretta Beautiful, maybe coming down and doing something in the downtown area.
What's the ballpark budget for that one that's coming up?
The one that's coming up? About $70,000 altogether for all the trees and everything else that's going to go with it. There's some irrigation as well. Again, the trees are not your biggest cost, it's irrigation. That's always going to be your biggest cost. We bring the manpower, the volunteers to plant them. Parks does a lot of the pre-work. So there's some hours that are budgeted for that add to that cost.
Okay.
Of course, the French know that because they helped me plant a lot of those trees. So,
thank you.
As did Tricia. So.
Thank you for the info. So, discussion, I guess, if that's the end of your presentation. We'll go ahead and go to discussion. If the board has any questions they want to ask, they may at this time. If not,
I just had a question. Is the Plaza one within the church district area? Does it fall within?
No, it goes to Santa Ursula.
It falls from Santa Ursula to the west.
So it's outside?
So it's outside.
The plaza one.
The plaza's outside?
Yes, but they need the connectivity. That's what they're talking about, right?
With Hidalgo. On Hidalgo Street. I think there's the name of the first street. The second one is San Agustin. What's the first one?
Santa Ursula.
We're checking the boundary right now. I'm sorry, what's the first?
It's Hidalgo. The first cross street is What is that? Can you see that? San Bernardo, and then San Agustin.
And so, just quickly, sorry, Sheila said math for the record. I know it's kind of hard to visualize here on the map, but I can just use this mouse. All of this is going to be a green corridor, essentially, for people to walk across safely with shade. And of course, like Tricia mentioned in the presentation, the tree canopy is going to serve to benefit the walkability and bikeability of this section, but also with carbon sequestration. And we're also proposing in our project to install air monitors, since the state has decommissioned theirs. And so we'd have a good idea of how well the project worked, what the difference is once we plant those trees in the air quality of that section of Laredo. So. Right, we have to get the baseline first, and they do have data from the date of installation. So TCEQ has data from the date of installation to the day that they deactivated the monitor. So we have a good idea, but I mean, it's been a big gap since they deactivated those monitors, so.
Well, I have a question for staff. I mean, it's not inside the TERS district, right? So we can't use funding outside.
Part of this. Let me give, so the motion is discussion with possible action to approval of a letter of commitment. There's no discussion here on funding at this moment. So right now, it's just a letter of commitment, of support. Is it just a letter of, that this is in line with what we're doing? Maybe you can get clarification on that. If it's still asking us to commit funding, then I would probably deviate for us to go back to our legal department and verify if you, I don't think you would be able to commit funding to something outside of your church jurisdiction. But if it's just a letter of support, that you're supporting this, that might be different.
This is very.
So, yeah, so, go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm gonna let you do it. Go ahead.
So we're asking for City of Laredo to partner with us on this side, on the east side of Hidalgo, and we are asking you all to come in and participate and do this, the west side of Hidalgo. Which is in your jurisdiction.
And it's also, I would like to come, first I'd like to thank you all for asking the tourists to partner, because the redevelopment of downtown is going to take partnerships. No one board, no one group is going to be able to do it. And that you've arrived here today with this kind of presentation, I really want to thank you. Also, because you see that Hidalgo is the first street after the improvements on Bridge Number 2. They almost went over through Hidalgo, but Hidalgo is the street that connects the old Azteca neighborhood to downtown Laredo. And, the idea that I could drive in to Laredo on Bridge Number 2 and see something that's aesthetically appealing is exciting. And the idea that people could walk there in an attractive and safe manner with trees for the air quality.
Think of it like in Mexico City, right? They have that big colonia, ¿cómo se llama? Reforma, right? So that's like our idea, but for Laredo. And also, thank you for hearing us out. And I think that's like the most important part of this grant, like partnership. EPA wants to see partnerships and projects that cannot be done, like you said, with one entity or program by themselves. So they're really encouraging, partnerships with nonprofits, and it could be businesses as well. It doesn't have to be like local governments. So, Viviana, did you have something to say?
Good news. The boundary is on San Dario.
Yay!
Okay.
I'd like to move that we enter into an agreement.
So at this time, I think Ms. Alexander's motion is to create a letter of commitment to support this project?
Yeah, right. It
To
said that the
support
project needs 3 partners, right? And so that this would build a partnership on so many levels, especially with the green space and the safe movement of pedestrians.
And they want, they really want like these roles kind of defined, you know, they don't want just, we support this, we think it's a great project. Like they want to see if the TERS board would be a partner, well, the TERS board could commit to assisting with certain things. And that doesn't have to be defined right now.
Right,
but
it's not on the agenda for right now, but we definitely can put it back on the agenda and kind of get a little bit more specific on things in a later meeting.
Yeah, and I would suggest that if you want to submit to the board, like what would be this request or this letter of commitment you would want from them, that could be something they can entertain in their next meeting, which is the April 11th.
The grants due April 10th.
So you're asking for us to say that we're your partner, right?
And also define, like your role, but in the
Yeah.
partnership, like to what capacity you would like to
So
participate.
the role is
in the
not
partnership.
financial, that's what you're saying?
It doesn't have to
It
be.
doesn't have to be.
It could be, it's.
And if and there's certain things, if it's financial, then the awards go through the financial partners. And I'm sorry, I'm gonna look for it in just a second here. It says, just really quickly here, if there is a financial partnership, applicants are not required to include the final partnership agreement as part of their work plan, but must include necessary details as expressed above if a sub-award is present.
But you're saying, then the award would be coming through risk.
One question I had was, in terms of connectivity, I mean, how we define our role or responsibilities, what exactly are you looking for in terms of connectivity? You know, it was mentioned, but, you know, sort of what would you be looking for the TERS? You know, if we put aside money and just say in terms of what our roles and responsibilities would be, what would you be looking to us to provide? What would be beneficial for this project?
Well, it seems like a lot of the expertise with the TERS projects is on these improvements to help walkability and enhancing the shade, the tree canopy. So the requested help would be with those improvements with the connector of Hidalgo. And the sidewalks, you know, they're fairly uneven, not the easiest to walk, and they're not covered, they're not shaded, so.
And narrow.
They're very narrow, so, you know, possible ideas are extending it out a bit further, and leveling it a bit and bringing in some trees for shade.
Can I suggest that maybe the level of commitment right now is to partner up with the development of a project, or I don't think there's enough information right now for you all to make a commitment of funding.
I think we could
But-
make it an intent, a letter of intent.
But maybe a letter of intent to work
yeah.
on future projects to provide these type of expertise or this type of insight based on some projects that have already been initiated or will be initiated by the TERS. That might be something that the board might want to entertain.
But you need an answer from this board today, because your application is, your deadline is before our next meeting. So can we just enter into an agreement without funding at this point, without the
Oh,
agreement?
yeah, that for sure we can do without funding, but now they're getting more specific. Like it's first the letter and then now what are you gonna help with? And we don't have an answer.
Yeah, we need to know what are they gonna do versus what we're gonna do. I mean, if we're working in partnership, you know. At this
So
point, we don't
risks,
have that info.
sorry, risks portion would be primarily focused on the Plaza One. And then the partnerships would focus on the two sides of Hidalgo. So, I mean, you all could come up with the terms and kind of decide what your capacity is to help with this project. So it would really be up to you to tell us how much you're willing to commit to the project.
So we could agree to be partners and have the letter of commitment? Is that what it's called?
It sounds like it's more than just a letter. Now it actually sounds like you would need them to present like part of an application with you.
No, we would take care of the application. We would submit it and.
Could you show us from your presentation, could you show us that part that showed what the TERS would commit to?
So after 250.
That was the last one.
We're not
Here's the
even
request
close
on
to
the.
that area
on the-
yet. That's the thing, we're not close to that area yet.
Here's the,
We
what they're
haven't
asking
started
here.
with that one right here.
But it could be a non-financial.
So it could be non-financial, right. So if we agree now, the way it's written is, it could be,
So, right, I think the primary area is those 2 blocks from the Plaza on Hidalgo to San Bernardo and then San Agustin. Like, that's where the improvements are really needed.
So you do need a financial commitment from what you're saying.
Well.
That's why you're asking.
So, as I understand it, the commitment is to provide the same kind of improvements that are going to happen in these other projects, which is lighting, walkability, and shade. Those are the 3 things. To the extent and how much and all of that's up to, right now you just need the commitment that the TERS is going to be there. The financial commitment is, I'm assuming at some point, the TERS has different phases coming in. We're just going through the first phase right now. You have up to 3 years to look at this project, is that correct? Yes. Okay, so you can say, we are thinking about having one of the phases come in for that part of the street. It's no different from what you're doing anyplace else. But in this particular case, when you first started the TERS phasing projects, when we started the design, the 4 blocks were simply a feasibility study that had happened. It was a master plan that had not been funded. Now the first 2 blocks are funded. And that happened, I guess, about 4 or 5 months ago. And then now there's very little connectivity to that, and it's going to be an important part of attraction into the downtown. It's important for Azteca, which is really the only area close to downtown in that proximity that has people living, as opposed to downtown, which there's very few people living. So the connectivity is important. And the type of project that's needed is simply a project that follows exactly the same guidelines as you've been going through. And I guess the commitment is for something in the next 3 years to happen there.
We just so you know, we're leveraging another grant that we got with the Methodist Ministries. We just entered into a 6-month learning collaborative with them, and it's to deal with the area on Zacate Creek from Market Street down to its confluence with the river and Las Palmas Nature Trail, and a huge portion of that is Azteca. They're already a partner with us in that grant, so we're going to start that deep community engagement and planning with them about what is it that they want or need to be able to access and enjoy these natural areas and ecological features and improve their walkability and ability to go outside. And so that's going to start this month. And so we're already kind of in with them. They're already a partner. And so for this grant, they're also going to be a partner, but now they would be heading, instead of south toward the river and along the creek, that will go through a restoration. Now this is about going west toward these plaza areas and toward into downtown. So I just wanted y'all to know that we've gotten that already, and we are going to start that work this month with Azteca, and they're going to be a partner in this as well. And I know y'all's next meeting is the 11th, and if, you know, more than anything, I think the TERS, your expertise in doing these kinds of improvements downtown, and your networks within city government and with professionals, I think would be incredibly valuable as we develop this plan if we are awarded this grant in September.
So I'm assuming what she's saying is like the design process for those areas might be to the extent of what you might be looking at in terms of the design and working drawings for that area. Let me also say that, I guess the commitment can be for the next phase to look at that, for that area to be, so it can be in conjunction with with this project. I don't know if that's helpful.
Yeah, it could be that you're committing to sidewalk improvements. It could be that you're committing to technical assistance during this project. I mean, we're kind of leaving it up to you all.
It doesn't require a match, so, you know, we're not here saying we need X number of dollars from you to make this grant proposal happen. It does not have a match, which is great. But the more we can just leverage and keep layering, I mean, you know, the better.
I mean, would it be best that we move up our meeting maybe, and that by that time you'll have your application kind of closer to being complete, and you'd have something to look at, something in front of you? Because I know, I mean, this is nice, but I think the worry is committing to something that you have nothing in front of you. And maybe if we just adjusted our meeting to come in a few days before, we could do something, you know, a little bit more.
Okay, but there's a motion. There's a motion. I don't think there's.
So your motion is for just to do the letter right now, right?
Is to agree, yeah.
Agree on the letter. So that's the motion on the floor. I don't know if you want to make an amendment or just leave it like it is.
Well, the way the motion read was with no financial connection. Right.
But your motion is a letter of commitment.
Right, so that we could say that we're a partner, so that if you wanted to go forward with your application, we could say we are a partner working with them, and as we go forward, we could decide on if there's a financial component or not, but at this point, right, because of lack of understanding, right?
So that's on the floor, motion
Yeah.
for the letter
You already did, sir.
with no financial support. Okay. I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We'll do that for now, the letter.
Okay, thank y'all so much, and we hope we can work with y'all, Mr. Chairman. I don't know who's the right person as we develop the letter. I mean, if there's a financial component that comes in, super, and if that's just not possible, we need to explain in the letter the level of commitment from the TERS from a technical standpoint. I don't know who's the right person we would work with.
So Director Cohen will say.
No, with staff and Mr. Ceballos, who's
Okay.
actually the chairman.
All right, already sounds fun.
And just, and I'm sorry, we didn't mean to like come
Scare
up here
us?
unprepared, but we just needed to know who the partnerships are so that we can start building our budget and narrative for the project, so.
Thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
It all helps.
It's gonna be great, like Ms. Alexander said, this is gonna be, you're gonna enter this city, and it's gonna be beautiful and very inviting. If you're coming in, or if you live or work around there, it's gonna be nice.
Item number 9. Discussion and possible action related to the creation of facade improvement program subcommittee to to include Laredo Main Street, to develop and bring back program guidelines for final approval and subsequent implementation. Doctor?
Hello, good afternoon. I'm Marcela Uribe, Executive Director of Laredo Main Street. So I just want to, like we have discussed in the past, to creating a facade improvement program. And we brought to this board some guidelines. And this is just a creation of a committee so we can move forward with the facade improvement program. So that's the proposal. So we can create a subcommittee from this with Laredo Main Street and the church, so we can move forward and see what kind of program we can create for facade improvement. One of the, so last week we had the visit from the Texas Historical Commission. I don't know if you know that we are affiliated through the Main Street program. We are an affiliated program, and Texas Historical Commission, they actually run that program. So they were here, we were walking around downtown, and they saw the possibility, like many possibilities of, through the facade improvement program, to actually really improve some strategic areas. And we talk about the church improvements, and they said it would be fantastic if through this program, facade improvement program with the church, you can improve in those strategic areas, because there will be some funding available for facades. So that would be kind of like the beginning of something, and then it will spread out.
Incentive.
Yes, exactly. So, I mean, that's why, I mean, we keep asking for the church to actually create a subcommittee and work with us on some of those guidelines.
If there's no discussion, is there anybody who'd like to volunteer to the subcommittee?
I was gonna volunteer Carol, but I'll be part of that subcommittee as well.
I actually had the opportunity to walk with Dr. Uribe and the three people from the Texas Historical Commission last week. And we had the chance to go inside with these three people. I think they're all three are architects, and their specialty is to travel around to their 90 cities that they partner with in Texas. And so we walked around, and they had some comments. And they also provide us the service.
Yes.
We can, through Laredo Main Street, we have access to the, well, of course, to the Texas Historic Commission. And these three people in particular, we went inside the Plaza Theater, and of course they've been to redeveloped plazas all over the state. And one of the ladies was from Mexico, so she had some great ideas about what could happen with our downtown. And so the lead was an architect that he is the one that knows how TERS monies can be used to do facade improvements on private property. And so they have a program that we could look at and follow.
So one of the things in terms of the access to some of the resources is that, for instance, they can provide some guideline or some guides to those owners. And for example, they were saying, here's the building, three different shades of paint will make a huge difference in the appearance of this building. And they can provide some of that assistance, right, with the design. Ideas, and actually a rendering of the building, of how this will look like, and actually how this can keep its historical importance or character. That's a better word. Its historical character through this kind of painting, or doing XYZ, or improving the canopy, or something like that. They can do that through the Main Street program. Since we are affiliated, they can help with those type of designs.
So Mr. Martinez, Ms. Alexander, and I'm gonna put Mr. Riazumi on the committee also.
Oh, that's a good idea.
He's not here, he gets to be put on the committee. So,
Do we need a motion to create this facade program? I mean,
I would like
subcommittee?
to take some action, that way we have it.
Okay. So,
You wanna make a motion?
Well, I'll make the motion.
Actually, no, I think it would just be, the chairman creating the subcommittee, there's no
Okay,
motion to be
good,
had. So
good.
that would be those other names that I would put out there.
And also our facade, this facade, Tina even has some history, right, with the facade improvement program that was already in place, that was just not very successful because of the way it was funded, and the way you had to qualify. But we're not starting at ground zero, right? We've already had we had a couple of projects downtown that used those funds, and then we have one person at least in the vicinity that was unable to secure those funds.
Hopefully, we can have a subcommittee meeting at redevelopment, so you can go over what was done in the past and how we could better the program.
So, in order to maybe expedite this, because I'm assuming this is something that you all definitely want to consider, we need to read what was acceptable expenditures of money by the TERS, which was granted by the city when the city was created. And I don't believe that having investments in private development was acceptable, or that you could have a relationship, not a relationship, but have investors come in and provide incentives for them, whether it be facade improvements or whatever. So, but the TERS can do that. It's a matter of going back to the council and getting the approval to do that. So that's going to take a little bit of research, and I don't know if you want us to start that. We can definitely do it.
I'd say we let the subcommittee look into that, and then they can come back to us with a recommendation to either take it to council or whatever's gonna be next, but, you know, do it at the subcommittee level.
Yeah, maybe we can let Mr. Janey from the Texas Historical Commission, I specifically asked that question about using tourist monies on private facades, and he said there is a route to that. But maybe he can look at our whatever created this board and this program and find that language.
Right, exactly. We can find language in other cities on how this has been approved and so on.
Gotcha.
Or develop it, right, yeah.
That discussion will be done at the subcommittee.
Yeah. Yes, we can have
Let's
a
leave it there.
Okay.
We can do that. Item 10, discussion with possible action regarding invoices submitted by Able City and KCI Technologies as presented. Staff, did you get a chance to look at them, engineering?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Chavez, can I have you send both invoice information?
Okay, thank you. Do I have a motion to?
Motion to approve invoices payable to Able City and KCI Technologies.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
I second the motion.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion's approved. Do you have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I have a motion to adjourn, the second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion, meeting adjourned.
You guys,